Breaking Barriers. I'm Nicholas Ford, Managing Partner for Top Rank. Today we are with Joey Briscoe, and she is with the Cedar Rapids Community School Districts as the Diversity Program Recruiter. Hi, Joey. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
How about, can you give us a little introduction to yourself and your role, and
Definitely.
tell us what you're all about?
I'm excited to be here. I'm honored that you asked me to join
Definitely.
and talk about breaking barriers. And I'm hoping that this role at the school district, among other things that they're already doing, continues to break many barriers. So a little bit about me. I'm an Iowa gal, born and raised. Waterloo, Iowa, until about, I don't want to date myself here, but
You'll be younger than me.
okay, okay. Until about 18, 19 years old. And then I went into the Air Force, and I'm going to give you the short and sweet version, although 25, you know.
Yeah.
But went to the Air Force, joined the military, thought I'd see the world, and pretty much I saw Texas. So, you know, but Texans think that's the world, so that's pretty cool. And I'm a big fan of Texas. It's like a second home for me. And so in that time frame, I worked for NSA. I got a very good experience into multicultural experiences. I always say it's crazy how things work and what guides you to your purpose, because you never would have thought, here I am, a young Black girl from Iowa, joining the military to see the world and ending up in Texas. But I had so many dynamic diversity experiences there, working joint service. I worked international. I speak a little Spanish, so I was a crypto-Spanish linguist and a reporter for roughly 10 years, so got a lot of experience. Then accepted a position as a program manager for International Academy, also in Texas. I thought, I'm leaving. And they said, no, it's down the street. So just move your desk down the street.
Seeing a lot of the world there.
Yes, exactly. So, but it was a wonderful experience. And I have to say that really helped guide me to my purpose. I didn't know it then. You know, I just thought they needed someone that liked to plan events, that was passionate about multicultural experiences, and that spoke Spanish. And so the parameters were kind of limited on that. That was also in the Air Force, and that happened to be me. And so I thought at the time, oh, this is great. I'm taking a special duty and I have a good time with it. But this actually led to my purpose, I must say. So was able to do some wonderful things during my 16 years in the military. Retired. I'm a disabled veteran. That's something I'm not always the typical face people see when you say that you're a disabled veteran.
You and me both.
Right, exactly. And so came back to the Midwest to home and worked a little while for the YWCA, and I was able to do a Black Hawk County and was able to do some really positive, I hope, initiatives around diversity there. We created Inclusion Cedar Valley, which was a collaboration between the University of Northern Iowa, Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Human Rights Commissions, Iowa Workforce, and then the Chamber. And so It was a comprehensive initiative to move the conversation, and not only the conversation, but to have some concrete takeaways about how we can make sure that inclusion is happening for everyone in Iowa, because we had a lot of people from all over Iowa and other people outside of the Iowa region attend. And so after that, I was fortunate to connect with some great guys at Top Rank. And they talked to me a little bit about the position with the school district. Again, I said by that point, I kind of knew I was home as far as diversity and inclusion went, and passionate about opening doors and reducing barriers and closing that opportunity gap for not only minorities, but disabled veterans, for marginalized populations. And so at that point, when I talked to Anthony about it, I was very, very intrigued. And as I read on it, and it was a funny experience, because when I was reading about the position, it was the same time that Waterloo had an article come out that just said it wasn't a very positive place for African Americans. And so I just thought, how can I get more ingrained in moving that conversation forward? And so this seemed like the perfect opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you coming down to Cedar Rapids.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you again for your service. Both of us fellow disabled vets.
Yes. Thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. So similar, I did get to see the world in the Navy, but always that I liked was the experience in the different cultures and different people, and you almost have to. So I always found it interesting, the military, to do diversity inclusion. Did you have any challenges in the military with diversity inclusion? As like you said, a young black lady coming from Iowa, or just keep coming from Iowa sometimes.
Yes, interesting, because I believe in education, and not necessarily even well, I believe in formal education. I work for a school department, done a lot of work with universities, but just the power of conversations to educate people. There was oftentimes, because I was in Intel, and there's not a lot of, at that time, minorities, women in the ranks of what I was in at that time. And so I built relationships where I had people say, "Well, you're not the typical black girl," and so you laugh
because I know I've heard it.
yes, exactly. And so, um, being able to just have those conversations and say, "Well, what do you think the typical black woman is?" And kind of describing why do you feel that way, and being able to talk about what happens in our society that shapes the image, and then being able to say, "Yes, I am." There's a lot that are way supersede my accomplishments and the things that I've done. I mean, there are some minorities doing amazing things, and so just being able to open up awareness and say, you have to look outside what maybe your experience has been or what you've seen on TV or in the media, and really make friends. There was a survey that came out in the last couple of years that talked about how many people don't have friends of other races. That's so limiting, because then not only do you lose diversity of thought, but then you also don't have the experience to gain knowledge of other cultures. So I like that. I think the military, they do a good job of making people come together for a common goal.
Right.
And you don't really have a choice.
You don't have a choice. Yeah.
And so because you don't have a choice, it's one of those things where you have to put aside your differences to get the mission done. And so, and that was an adjustment when I got out. I'll be honest. I went through that period of, okay, I'm different from you and you're different from me, but this is what we have to do. So let's just do it. And I still struggle with that sometimes at the district. It's a different.
You're not alone.
Yes.
I struggle with that a lot too.
Yes,
The transition is very difficult. Especially like you spend enough time and you start to get some seniority, and you are able to make things happen.
Yes.
And you don't wait on things, and that's been a struggle. I've had the same problem where I imagine you're a lot like I am. You want to let's just get it done. Let's do it. We know how to do it.
Exactly.
Let's do it. But on the other side, there's more red tape and there's more
politics.
things. More politics.
Yes.
I mean, well, that exists in the military to an extent.
It does.
There was still the mission.
There's still the mission.
So, one thing that I find interesting as well is your time in Waterloo coming to here. What really drew you to
Cedar Rapids?
Well, Cedar Rapids and this job, because when we talked to you about this job originally, it was the first of its kind ever in the Cedar Rapids School District.
Yes.
Which I think, like a veteran, I think that's perfect for a veteran because that's a challenge, right?
Exactly.
So talk to me about your experience there and what really drew you to that.
Exactly what you said. Someone just recently told me this. I never identified it about myself, but there was someone that recently told me, like, you're a grower. That's what you do. You find issues and you figure out ways to fix them and fix them for community. That's what your role. So this seemed like something that I was very, very excited for. I believe in it. I believe that representation matters. And it not only matters for minority children, it matters for all kids. Like if I'm a Caucasian and I'm in a school district and I see a black man or a black woman or Latino or disabled person in a leadership role, as I get older and I'm in a leadership role, then I turn around. It's not different for me.
It's not different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can envision that. So then when I'm hiring, my biases about that have probably already been addressed because I grew up and I saw that. My teacher was African American. My teacher was Latino. My teacher was disabled. And my teacher was from the LGBTQ community. Right. So when I'm in a hiring position, those things are most likely, not always, we don't always get to everyone. You can't run over to the diversity and inclusion side, but just in general, I think that makes a huge difference and a huge impression. So just believing in that, and then going back in my own experience of growing up in Iowa, I didn't have a lot of teachers that looked like me at all. And so I remember it was my father lived in DC and my uncle was stationed at Bolling Air Force Base, and going to school in DC and the expectation there of kids that look like me from people that look like me, it just changed my world. It really did. So by the time I came back to go to school here, I knew that I had to do something. I knew that I needed to focus on my goals and my career and things of that nature. So I saw for myself what that did and what that impact was. And so this role I felt like was an opportunity for me to give back.
Awesome. So let's talk about some things that are going on in the school district.
All right.
So like you said, growing up, not a lot of teachers look like you.
Yes.
There's not a lot of veteran teachers. There's
Yes.
not a lot of disabled teachers.
Exactly.
Not a lot of LGBTQ teachers.
Exactly.
They look like me, most of them probably, or like my spouse.
Yes.
Some areas are especially hard. My wife teaches special education. Yes. That's an especially hard area to get males into.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But so needed.
Yes.
And there's such a burnout. How do you address the diversity inclusion? I mean, we'll talk more later about the kids side. Let's talk about the teacher side and the staff side. How do you get that culture change? Because I know Dr. Buck was behind it.
He is.
So, and now we've got a little change coming.
Exactly.
And the school board's behind it.
The school board is.
How do we push that culture down amongst the schools? Because it's not a small school district.
It's not. It's a second largest
in Iowa.
Right,
So how do we push that down? And in your role, and talk even about some of the other members of the team that are helping you with this, because you have your HR department, but you also have some other diversity inclusive areas. Talk about that a little bit for us.
Okay, great. Well, the good thing that I've found in my experience since I've been here is when your leadership believes in something, typically it happens, right?
Yeah.
If your leadership, it's a lot more difficult if it was just starting at my level and I had to push it up. Because typically if someone doesn't believe in that, then they put a lid on it and, we'll think about that later on.
Nice job, but
exactly. Good, and that's for the future, maybe next year. Right. So the good thing in my experiences around diversity and inclusion, you have Rod, who's the director of equity. He is very, very passionate about it. Dr. Grant, who is the executive director of middle schools, he's very passionate about it. Noreen Bush, who will be our interim superintendent. Noreen is wonderful. She's just been fantastic since I've been there. She's very personable, so even just being able to go to her one-on-one and talk about where we're at and what we like to do. And then it's great because as leadership, Dr. Buck, Noreen, they've all reached out to me on multiple occasions saying, these are some things that we would like to see in our district as well. And it's so funny because a lot of times I'm looking out around the country for programs that can help make our programming stronger. Right. And it's very funny to have your superintendent and Noreen, they're all talking about programs too. So literally Dr. Buck will send me something that's a great example, or he'll send me a child that he's talked to in our district that she wants to be superintendent. And so he's like, oh, this is her name. Please reach out to her. He is down to that detail. He's that much involved in the process. And so when you have your leadership that is spearheading it, even though, have I had to have conversations about why is it important? Have I had to have those conversations on occasion about the fact that we are focusing on diversity and inclusion? Is that leaving out other people? And have I had to explain that's not what this means at all? Yeah, and again, as I said earlier, I'm for education. I'm for having those critical conversations that sometimes can be transformative to how a person thinks about inclusion. And so for me, leadership is key in being behind all the initiatives. And our leadership is. So I know Rod is also, he just recently did a climate assessment.
Okay.
He's working on creating affinity groups within the organization where people that come into the district, they have connections within the district that feel like them. So say you're LGBTQ and you want to connect with other people, you have the option if you're African American, if you're Latino. And then on top of that, we're connecting with ICR.
Yes. Okay, I was saying it's all starting to sound familiar.
Exactly.
Because Jennifer and I talked about a lot of the same stuff where
exactly.
Forming these groups to help and mentor and partner.
Exactly. We're doing all that as well. I'm a fan of those things already existed in our community, and a lot of us at the district didn't know about it. So maximizing what exists so that as we bring people in or people that are already here, they can feel connected to the community. That's super important. Because if you feel connected somewhere, you're going to stay, right? You're going to stay. And it might not be perfect, but if something isn't perfect, you have someone that you can go to, that you can talk to about it, or that you feel is compassionate about your story and your journey. Likelihood is that you're going to stay. You're not going to leave so quickly. So just making sure that we are maximizing all of those connections. We are totally working on that right now. Climate assessment. We have Adam Zimmerman. He is now doing all of our community engagement. And so it's great because Adam and I, we meet and we talk about things. So as I'm talking to parents and the community members about supporting my initiatives, I'm also saying, and by the way, Adam needs your support as well, or vice versa. So we're doing a lot of collaborating with across departments in the district as well.
Awesome. What about with the communication side of the school district with ACWI? Anything there?
Yes, ACWI is, and I love ACWI. ACWI is very, very much involved. recently, and we should have some good stuff coming out very soon from some of the programming. But what Akwi has done is help shape the continuous message of it.
Awesome.
She's very, very much involved in making sure. We recently even came up with a marketing plan on how we're going to roll out each initiative and talk to people and connect with different community members. And we are attending various ones of us, not without me. We're making sure that at every one of the NAACP meetings, there is a school presence.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I think that connecting the pieces in the community are great.
Yeah.
So, how do you get over the presence? And we're going to have a little hard discussion here on this
Okay,
one.
let's do it.
So, there's been, since I've moved back to Cedar Rapids, so
Okay.
I moved back before the flood.
Mm-hmm.
There's been talks about some actions, but they never quite come about. There's lip service.
Yeah.
We'll call it what people call it, lip service, right?
Exactly.
So how do you get past the folks out there that have seen this for maybe 10, 20 years of this one thing after another rolled out?
Exactly.
And we talked to Jennifer a little bit about this too with inclusive ICR. So, and you probably had some of the same problems at Waterloo.
Yeah.
How do you get past that? Oh, it's just the flavor of the, like we call it military, right? The flavor of the day.
Exactly.
So how do you get past that? How do we get?
You know, I hope that, and not just with me, but the leadership now, because I think Dr. Buck's been here about how many years?
5,
okay,
something
around
like that.
there now.
Yeah.
I think he has a good, strong cabinet, even though he's leaving, but I think he's left the district in a good position to move forward. For me, I'm going to the community because I want them to feel like we really want you guys to get behind the current initiatives. I've been told that hasn't necessarily been the strategy in the past, whereas we'll host these things at our school district and we expect you to come here. I'm a realist. I understand that historically there may have been things that happened where there's kind of some distrust from both parties. Yeah. I'm not a person that, I'm not as afraid of dealing with the reality of what is. Because I don't think you can fix it if you, oh no, that doesn't exist. Everything's all good and you can't fix things if you're not willing to address them.
You have to have those hard discussions.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not scared of those. I kind of welcome them to get a real climate. Like in my current role, I've heard all the history behind this role. I've heard who had it before and previously, all wonderful people, totally. I mean, again, I'm honored that right now that I was selected to do this role, but my slant on it is that I think community engagement is vital. I think that we now have a district that also understands that, because sometimes that was a breakdown, whereas we were doing all this great programming in the school and we had all these big educational things that we were going to roll out, and then getting the information to the community and getting the parents involved and things like that, that's kind of where we missed the mark. Whereas we sent it home in kids' backpack. Yes. I'm a parent.
Yeah, I'm afraid to go in my kids'
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just being a realist about maybe our communication, maybe we've missed the mark on some of that. I do like, we have a one-to-one electronic plan for the school district. So we're starting with the high schools. I believe it's upcoming year, but I know it's pretty quick. And then we're going to middle school, that we're making sure if we are trying to communicate with the kids, every kid has an avenue that they can access electronic means for communication.
Excellent.
So excellent. Very, very excited about that. I think that's going to do wonders for helping even get our kids ready for the future, because technology, like it or love it,
it's here.
It's here.
It's here.
It's here. And my 9-year-old, she gets on her phone and she so quick. I'm just, you know,
your thumbs get sore just watching it.
Just watching her manipulate that. And so not being afraid of those crucial conversations, talking about the things that we maybe didn't get right in the past and the things that we did get right in the past, and coming up with comprehensive solutions. That's where we're at right now. So I'm excited about that. I'm hoping it goes well. I'm hoping that this in July, we're going to be working with the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to be supporting and going out there doing pop-up shops. And I asked Lori over at the Boys and Girls Club, Lori, could the school district, can we get behind one of the pop-up shops so that the kids know even in the summer, we still care about them, you know? Yeah. So just making sure that message is still resonating with the community. I'm hoping that we do a good job. Next week, I'm meeting a lot of the church community leaders, and we're going to talk about issues and things that they've seen from their standpoint. And I'm going to make sure they all have, you know, my contact information as well, so that we just really have a strong connection with the community and what's going on. Dr. Ruth White and the Academy and all the people that are doing wonderful things already. It was funny, her and I and Eric, we had lunch the other day, and we're setting up a teacher academy, and she's been a very successful.
She was actually my English teacher. In high school.
Yes. Just a wonderful teacher.
She's an awesome lady.
Exactly. And I said, I really want you to give us a lot of input because you are a success story. You are a successful teacher of color. And she said, Joy, people don't normally ask me that. And I said, what?
I know that stuff blows me away.
Yes. So and again, it's an oversight, right? Like you get to operating. It's human nature. There's people I'm sure that would say, Joy could have asked me this and got the answers easily. It's not saying I've never done that myself.
But no one's asked.
But no one's asked. Exactly. That happens.
Well, on that point, we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
I'd love, like I said, we want to really delve into the kids and the community part some more.
Nice.
But again, thank you for being here with us today. And once again, I'm Nicholas Ford with Top Rank, and this is Breaking Barriers.